Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons, or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as MrMostDaysOff, and today we are back to conclude our review of the episode Sweet Home-Dum-Diddly Doodily. If you're just catching up, last week we were joined by Dr. Andrew Briseño to discuss the Simpsons classic, where the Simpsons parents, while at a day at the spa, end up getting their children taken away by Child Protective Services, and their new foster family is none other than the Flanders next door. So we are going to get right back into Act 2 of Sweet Home-Dum-Diddly Doodily. Joining me, as always, on the other side is going to be Richie theWizKid, and our guest returning, Dr. Andrew Briseño. Back from our break, we see the Simpsons kids being introduced, or I guess, I don't know, better acquainted with the Flanders, their new foster family. Rod and Todd are, like, super...
assimilated.
Yeah, there you go. Rod and Todd are super excited. They're all like, "We love you!
We love you!"
Yeah. Bart is a little bit grossed out by the hugs. It sickens him. I love Maud's line here because it's the perfect amount of judgy bitch that Maud always manages to be, like, but in like a outwardly fake sort of way. I don't know. I love this line that's played. "I don't judge Homer and Marge. That's for a vengeful God to do."
Mm-hmm. All we want to do is give your kids a good home until they get their act together.
Lisa is trying to defend her parents, but unfortunately, in the middle of her argument, her tooth falls out.
I hate it when that shit happens. It really affects your ethos if in the middle of your speech you lose a body part. Just, rhetoric tip from a composition teacher.
She tries to defend that it was a loose tooth, just a baby tooth that was going to fall out anyway. But the agent reassures her, "Don't worry, little girl. We'll get you some nice county dentures."
Ugh.
Well, that's going to be ugly.
Dude, County Dentures is an amazing name for a band.
That would be a good name for a band, actually. One quick note on this one from a technical aspect. They actually had a really difficult time achieving the right sound for the tooth falling out of Lisa's head and, hitting the floor. It was finally achieved when a woman in post-production actually dropped one of her own earrings into a glass and recorded it, and that's actually what they ended up using to get the sound right for this shot.
Nice. It's always interesting to hear how they come up with those random little noises that you only hear once or twice.
Well, and it's funny to think that, something like that could make a production struggle or stall because they have to, take time to figure out, wait, what sounds like this when you record it?
But it also shows that they care enough to actually put effort into it and not just, find the one that they think might work, halfway decent. They go all out, even on the tooth falling out.
They just have, a generic,
nowadays, you just Google that shit.
And that's the tooth.
Now they just have a generic soundboard, so when in doubt, they just pick a number and you get a slide whistle in that moment.
The window pane falling.
Yeah, exactly.
I like how one of us felt the need to impersonate a window pane shattering.
So Marge is already, it's this sweet idea, this sweet gesture that Homer tried to give her with the spa day is already flipped around. It's barely the second act. Marge is upset with herself. I mean, how could she put her own pleasure ahead of her home and family? I mean, that is just so like her.
Ouch. Poor Marge.
Yeah, no, it's funny just because, again, it goes to show just how wonderful, unselfish Marge is, especially compared with the rest of her family oftentimes.
I like that Homer got on to Abe saying, "We leave you the kids for 3 hours and the county takes them away." And then Abe just walks off and goes, "Oh, bitch."
Yeah, that's really, really good. Bart and Lisa are already just a little bit not really in their element because during playtime, Rod and Todd make their own newspaper and they have articles that say things like, headline, "Playtime is fun."
Go with it!
So, to be fair to Bart, he does also try to play along. He has a article himself. It says, "Extra, extra, Todd smells."
Bart, I don't know if this should be an extra.
Is your source on this reliable?
But the way Todd said that, Todd stood up to Bart right there, which you don't really expect. Ever since his little Limit of Troy escapades here, he's starting to step up his game a little bit.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That's interesting.
I really like that the Flanders boys apparently have 2 different newspaper presses in their home.
Oh, good
so
point.
They can both write articles.
That way they can both, play. That's funny. Also, it just seems like Bart and Lisa are just generally uncomfortable because it seems like their house, but everything's got like a creepy Pat Boone-ish quality to it.
Hey, kids! Nachos, Flanders style. That's cucumbers with cottage cheese.
Oh, God, that sounds awful. Like,
Dude, that sounds like when Blue Apron sends me what they quote-unquote call tacos. And it's like nowhere near an actual taco, me being an actual Mexican. So that's my new term, is it's like whenever you get a really bad thing, it's just that Flanders style.
Flanders style.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like that.
The next time you accidentally buy sugar-free ice cream.
Ew.
Or non-fat dairy ice milk.
I'll take mine in plain.
You mean.
So,
which is somehow even
Flanders style.
So Flanders can actually tell that Bart is really down in the dumps, kind of upset, and he decides that they'll do whatever Bart wants to do for a little bit, and Bart wants to watch Itchy and Scratchy.
Well, I guess a little television won't hurt. I used to let the boys watch My Three Sons, but it got them all worked up before bedtime.
This is a joke that might be lost on a younger generation just because the further we get away from that era, the more lost this joke will become. But the whole point here is that My Three Sons is possibly one of the tamest shows that you will ever find. So if that were to get somebody worked up, it would just be, that's the joke. I'm done explaining it.
He Flanders it.
He Flanders it. Somehow, as it always does, the episode of Itchy and Scratchy that everybody watches together is very, very relevant to the episode's circumstances that we have going on before us. We see that Scratchy is sitting on a porch, sitting in his house reading a book, and there's a knock at his door, and he notices a baby's been left in a basket. Of course, this baby turns out to be Itchy, who ends up killing him in a very gruesome manner, and actually, for possibly the first time, also loots. He steals Scratchy's TV for some reason.
Because that makes it much worse.
Mm-hmm. We see that Bart and Lisa are absolutely loving this. Of course, they're huge Itchy and Scratchy fans, so why wouldn't they? But Rod and Todd are actually traumatized. Like, they are straight up pale and actually shaking.
Daddy, what's that red stuff coming out of Kitty's ears?
That's just her raspberry jam.
Dad, should I poke Rod with the sharp thing like the mouse did?
No, son. No, sirree, Bob.
So I have a question for you guys, Simpson-y related, of course. Is this the first time that Scratchy talks? Like that either Itchy or Scratchy has lines?
No, I think they've talked in the past several times, especially during Itchy and Scratchy Land, and also the one where Marge protests them. I'm almost positive they've had lines.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, never mind. Then, whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about. But
I could be wrong.
It was still MF and hilarious to me when the cat is like, "Why, my only son?" And it's like, yes, please. I'm so glad that we broke a general establishment that this is a silent cartoon.
Oh, no, Itchy and Scratchy the movie.
Particular...
Itchy and Scratchy the movie for sure has lines in it.
Okay, but the bits in the show are largely silent.
Sure, yeah, I think it still works. Your point's
except for the
got meaning.
Cries of pain coming from the cat, yes?
Yeah.
Usually.
I'm just saying, you don't often hear the cat say anything, and the fact that they chose to disrupt that for these particular lines made my day.
The line's definitely, that line adds a lot to the bit, which for anyone that wants to know the name of this episode, it was Foster Pussycat Kill Kill. And I would like to add on top of that one of my favorite moments in this episode is actually when they sit down to watch TV, Flanders grabs the TV remote and he blows dust off the TV remote.
Oh, yeah, it's really... fun just to show the difference in the dynamics of their families.
Yeah.
Well, that's basically going to do it for the Itchy and Scratchy for the time being. We actually cut back over to Homer and Marge, who are very sad and really just miss their children. They're peeking through the blinds, but unfortunately Homer can't tell if he's seeing Lisa or just a starfish. They try to call, but they just get a blocked message saying, "The number you have dialed can no longer be reached from this phone. You negligent monster."
Oh.
And that sparks enough outrage in Marge that she declares they're going downtown to get their kids back right then, right now.
And Homer knows Flanders' phone number by heart.
It was a different time. You might know your neighbor's phone number in those days.
I'm saying he put in the extra effort. That good old Homer. Such a caring guy.
It's fair to notice that, but I'm just thinking back to like 1995. I was only like 10, and I probably like had like 5 or 6 phone numbers memorized, and one of them was probably a neighbor.
And you have to remember, this is the era of speed dial, as we see later on the phone, right? So he could have just had like press 2.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, that's possible. Just hold 2 down.
I mean, they were best friends for a little while a few seasons ago, so maybe he still remembers it from then.
Nacho Man. Yeah.
Which reminds me, why didn't Flanders have to unblock the channel? They have 197 channels,
right.
Satellite all blocked out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good little chronological error there. I think a wizard might have done it.
Fair. We can deal with that.
Magical
just
Maggie.
It, so.
Yeah, she's over there too, of course. She likes her TV
freaking
as
demon
well.
baby Maggie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we did see some Magical Maggie for sure in this episode. Right?
We definitely will.
I don't know. Have we yet?
I mean, not yet. Maybe.
I don't think we have yet, but we're going to get there very, very soon. For real quick, though, on the way to the courthouse, we did a very quick flash of outside the courthouse where there's actually a statue of a man on a horse, and it has Schwartzwelder written on it. That actually is John Schwartzwelder. However, Josh Weinstein and Bill Oakley say that they actually made a mistake when they were making this episode because they were referencing something that Schwartzwelder established back in the episode Dog of Death, where it was a Schwartzwelder written episode and he made one of the counties Schwartzwelder. Well, Josh and Bill accidentally put Springfield in Schwartzwelder County, whereas it should actually be adjacent because Springfield should be in Springfield County, according to that episode. So, just to kind of build on that a little bit, this is really, really fun. I talked a lot about how much I enjoyed hearing Merkin on the commentary. I think that Josh and Bill are also going to provide a lot of entertainment, but in a very different way, because these two nerds debate everything to like a fine point, which is really fun and makes for some very detailed sequences. But something that they talked about is they were actually the first writing crew to be in charge that weren't original production members. They weren't originally on the writing staff. So they were actually fans of the show before they became writers for the show. And just when they were fans and watching episodes over and over again, they came into the show with basically an encyclopedic knowledge, is what it was called by Matt Groening, of each and every little detail about The Simpsons, which brings in a lot of structure. And we've talked about on our season 6 spectacular how they're known for bringing in a lot of the side characters and giving them more depth. And I think we're going to see that as they branch out from these family-centric episodes.
So you're saying there's a chance we could show run The Simpsons one day?
Sure. Is that the takeaway?
That is the only takeaway I need.
So you're saying there's a chance.
That's what I was thinking when he said that too. Yeah, but no, it's just fun to see how much these guys really do care about the details.
Absolutely, I agree with you on that, and that's cool that people that were fans at such an early time of the show can actually like quickly move up to be showrunners.
Yeah, and I mean, they worked hard. They talked a lot about how, there's a lot of writing the episodes that nobody else wanted, but they just kept at it and kept getting there. And yeah, they were put in charge for what many believe to be 2 of the best seasons. So we'll keep talking. This is just one of many we have to talk about. Let's get back to it. We see Marge and Homer are actually pleading their case in front of a judge. Marge is even saying from one mother to another. Even though that doesn't work because the judge doesn't care for children.
Well, wait a minute. Okay, I'm not going to win Father of the Year. In fact, I'm probably the last guy in the world who should have kids.
We see the judge kind of look at him sternly.
Well, what? Can I start again? Fathering children is the best part of my day. I'd do anything for Bart and Lisa.
And, Margaret's?
Who? Lady, you got the wrong file.
Marge has to whisper to Homer, "It's Maggie."
Oh, Maggie. I got nothing against Maggie.
So the judge sees that they want their kids back, but it's not going to just be something she's going to give them right away. She wants them to go to some family counseling and take a class called Family Skills. It teaches parents to listen to their
communication. Gotcha.
But it's important to
listen. Yes, I know.
But there's more to it than
I have listening skills.
Mr. Simpson, would you please
shut up, Judge?
Oh, this is just such a good representation of Homer. It's the right type of intelligent. It's the right type of he just has this indignant style about him that I just really, really, really enjoy here.
It makes for good television.
Something to note about this scene is this is, according to IMDb, the first time that Maggie is actually called Margaret in the show.
Ooh.
And that's not the only first name we're going to get mentioned for the first time, but we're going to get to that shortly. For now, we're back with the Flanders, or the Flanders-Simpsons hybrid clan for now, and Bart and Lisa are noticing that Maggie seems to really be bonding with Ned and Maude. She's laughing in a way that they've never heard her laugh before.
When has her father ever given her that kind of attention before?
He spent all day with her that time she swallowed a quarter. Which I did not get as a kid somehow. That he was just 25
waiting
cents
for
short.
25 cents for a beer.
Yeah.
Bart's kind of going through some of the things that are weird about this place. Like, they put honey on pancakes instead of maple syrup.
They read Newsweek instead of nothing.
But Ned is still trying just to cheer these gloomy Gus's up. He asks who's for a big bowl of non-fat ice milk.
Wintergreen for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get an order of wintergreen and unflavored, which who would have thought that ice milk comes in both?
And who would have thought Maude would order unflavored?
Dude.
Which can we say, like, for an full episode, I tried to take note of Maude not paying attention to Ned, and I like that doesn't really come up in this episode because we talk about that frequently when she's a character on the episode. And I think it's just because there are children to take care of, and that kind of, like, she was all about that for this episode. So I didn't notice her being negligent of Ned in this too much, but at the same time, I didn't really see her being embracing either.
For your theory with that, yeah, and the whole...
I like that theory a lot.
It's an interesting dark theory, for sure. We actually see back at the family classes, Marge is having a very rough time sharing her story. She's crying, and she talks about seeing Bart in that burlap sack as they took him away because he had lice, or because he was neglected, I should say.
And of course, there's a dude in a burlap sack scratching his head who gets to say, "Is this story going anywhere?" Dude, this child skills class is like my favorite thing in this episode, like long term. Like, I mean, just this cast of like, hey, wait, haven't I seen that asshole at some other point in the show? Characters. We get Cletus is in there. If I'm not mistaken, go ahead.
So Cletus is actually an interesting one to bring up because before this episode, he was just known as Slack-Jawed Yokel. It was actually this episode that he gets named Cletus for the first time.
Nice. Okay, I would have sworn we would have already had that by now.
We actually won't get his last name all the way until 2002.
Cassidy?
Exactly.
Oh, he's carnage. Let's get him.
I think it's Smuckler.
I honestly don't remember his last name. I feel a little ashamed of myself.
I'm almost positive it's Smuckler.
I wish it was Cletus Cassidy.
I'll look it up. But yeah, Andy, who else did you recognize?
Well, I mean, it seems like one of Bart's classmates or maybe his older brother is in the front row.
Kearney's?
Yeah. Like
does
the
kind of look like him
bald-headed
from
one.
behind.
I mean,
Yeah.
right? Like, the random Texan is here with his amazing mustache.
Yeah, but it's the younger version again, I think, if I remember correctly. It wasn't it's because that character's not really fleshed out yet. Sometimes they have an older guy, sometimes they have a younger guy, but they keep bringing that guy back in the backgrounds in the classroom settings a lot.
It looks like maybe we have Bart's babysitter crush's mom is in there. Maybe.
Wait, we're talking about Ruth Powers?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I could be wrong. I could just be like reading into like maybe that's not her. But
we also have, of course, Mrs. Skinner, Agnes Skinner, I should say, and they actually reference another episode too because they say that they got in a fight over the inflatable bath pillow, and that was something that they were having a domestic dispute in the episode "The Springfield Connection," where Marge becomes a cop.
They did argue about that quite a bit in that one.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and I think that might be specifically the type of thing that we're going to see more and more of because of the attention to detail the new showrunners give to the show.
Yeah, they're sneaking in those little tidbits for the super nerds.
Almost like Easter eggs hidden in there. Yeah.
There's continuity in The Simpsons?
Shut.
One other thing to note, since you brought him up, I forgot to mention on the Cletus thing, too. A lot of people talk about how Cletus sounds a little bit different in this episode than he normally does, or that he'll go on to be in the future. And that's pretty much true. His voice is a little bit different, especially in the first couple lines of this episode. And they said that the entire reasoning for that is that they had only had Cletus on the show a couple times prior to this, and they had a very long summer break before doing the voice recording for this episode. So pretty much everyone, including Hank Azaria, just kind of forgot exactly what Cletus sounds like, and it just took a little bit of time to refine the character's voice.
That explains everything.
The class is explaining there's a lot of things or tricks that parents should know that they honestly probably should have learned a long time ago. Like, for instance, if you leave milk out, it can go sour. So you should put it in a refrigerator.
Or lacking that, a cool wet sack.
Exactly. I see
like
you've taken
Canadians.
parenting classes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm an adult. I don't know if you heard.
Marge is just absolutely humiliated when she's getting advice like your garbage can go in garbage cans. However, I love that it cuts to Homer and he's like diligently taking notes.
Garbage and garbage can. Makes sense. I like at the beginning when they ask how Skinner and Agnes could have resolved their differences, and everyone raises their hand and they say without resorting to violence, and like everybody but one
Everyone
person
puts their hands down.
The Kearney looking guy doesn't, and he says or childish name calling. It puts his hand down.
Him. Yeah.
Dude, that is the most teacher real moment in maybe all of The Simpsons, right? It was like, who knows the answer? Yeah, except for you, and also you. Okay, that's what I thought. Oh,
none of you.
Yeah.
Who's awake right now? Teacher struggles.
Anyways,
real.
Yeah.
Back at the Flanders home, it's time for the first night with the Simpsons kids being part of the family, and Ned tells them, "Good night, my little foundling-a-dings."
But it's only 7.
Yeah, the sun's still out. And they actually open the blinds and see that it's bright as can be. Most of the kids are out playing, flying kites, playing baseball, doing what kids do. Fun little note here, and I don't know who put this in there, but one of the kids you can see, it's the one in a red shirt playing baseball at the top of the screen, but it's actually 1989 version of Bart Simpson. It's like a really early cut, like the ugly version of Bart Simpson, so to speak.
Oh, and they'll do that again in that Roger Myers episode where they have the other Lisa and Bart save the day.
Yep.
Very clever those writers can be. That's a cool Easter egg. I like that.
Well, Bart and Lisa, like we mentioned, they're old enough to kind of see what's going on, and they legit miss Homer and Marge, but they're worried about Maggie because Maggie hasn't been a Simpson as long as they have. They might not remember their parents like they do, and especially with as attentive as Ned and Maude have been so far, as they're tucking her in, They actually sing her a lullaby.
They say your folks can't pay the rent, so we're watching you by act of government.
Well, I don't know if the allegations are true, but you got us, and baby, we got you. Babe.
We got you, babe. We got you, babe.
That was perfect. All right, cool deal. I got that. That's great.
Thank you, partner.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm here for.
Let's adopt some children.
Yeah, fucking A. I think we're ready to foster, me and you.
Yep.
Just not in Texas, because that's illegal. Oh, no.
So Bart and Lisa are upset and worried about them being away from their parents, and Marge and Homer are sitting not even 10 feet away, I think it was, and they can't see each other. They can't even talk, and it's making them all a little crazy. Homer and Marge are walking through the house complaining about how quiet it is, and Homer says, "What I wouldn't give to hear Lisa play another one of her jazzy tunes." And he, of course, walks over and picks up her saxophone and famously starts to, quote-unquote, play it by just saying the word saxophone, saxophone.
That is the best part of this very excellent episode.
It's actually the second time they do this. They did this again, and I think it was in Lisa's sax, maybe.
Does he? I'm trying to remember. Like, I did feel like this bit had been somewhat done before, but I thought he said something else. But yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I'll give it to you. Count it. I don't know where to go from here. I miss the way Bart would say something and then say, dude.
I wish I remembered something about the baby that I could say right now.
You mean Maggie?
That's it.
As Marge and Homer are continuing to be sad and kind of mopey, they actually hear the doorbell ring and they get excited because they recognize it as Bart's ring. And the animation here is great because they legit race down the stairs. They're running at like full speed. And unfortunately, they're very disappointed to find that nobody's there when they answer. But they do notice that there is a headline from the Flanders Press sitting under their doormat that says, "Todd smells."
I already knew that.
But when they flip it over, they see another headline, "Simpsons kids miss mom and dad." And we cut to the end of our second act and go to our next break with Marge and Homer looking out into the night as they hold each other. And man, this is legit like a very sad, somber moment where it kind of hits you in the feels because these, like Lisa just so poignantly said a moment ago, they're 10 feet away from each other and they can't even talk.
Yeah. You feel it for real in this. Go ahead, Andy. Sorry.
Oh, no, not at all, man. I think we're in the same sort of a place, which is just that, like, it's really impressive how much solid emotion they pack in without ever giving up on the jokes, right? Like, I mean, it's easy to make this sad, and it's easy to make it funny, but to make it both at the same time is really kind of complex. And I gotta back up and explain what a dick Homer Simpson is for calling in fake traffic tips to the radio station. There are a lot of moments that if you have any younger viewers that they're not going to get. Like earlier there was the thing with the cassette tape at the meditation place that we skipped over. But like in this moment, it needs to be said that like back when we were young, the only way to get news on the traffic was from the radio station. And if some prick called in and said there was a fake accident, you were going the wrong way around some bullshit that did not exist. It was like getting catfished in your car.
I was gonna say it's like that kind of like predates the whole idea of like changing a Wikipedia entry so that when somebody has like a test coming up and they study wrong. Essentially, it was like a prank people would play back in the day.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Didn't you tell me you used to do that at bar trivia? Like you'd change shit on Wikipedia so people would like. I'm pretty sure
I do that to my students for sure. As I go up and I change the Wikipedia on various things right before their exams, just so I know who's studying how.
That's very clever.
That's
I like
hilarious.
that. I like.
Wow.
He's all in, man. He's all in.
I hope your students are listening now so that they learn all of your dirty secrets.
Dude, the students who are listening now are not the students who use Wikipedia. So it's kind of okay.
Bravo.
We're so highbrow.
We're on another level.
Only my best students listen to this podcast.
Bonus, you heard it here. If you are listening to this podcast and you're one of Andy's students, just go up to him on your next assignment and ask for the 5 free bonus points. Is that a thing? 5, 10? How many are you willing to give your students?
It's the same number of bonus points as you get for the discount code at walmart.com.
Oh, that's hurtful, man. Give them 1 bonus point. Give them a single point on a paper.
You know what? Right now, 1 singular bonus point for anyone who mentions that they heard this podcast.
Everyone who just got a 69, you're welcome.
Unless you wanted to stay at 69.
More than one way.
Nice.
Richie, what did you want to say?
There's the moment where Flanders is I was going to say talking to Maggie, but having his little exchange with Maggie where he's playing peekaboo with her. Did you see his eyes? Because his eyes do some weird things in that moment. He gets both of his eyes to point outwards at the same time. So they literally look in opposite directions at once. So, I mean, he is kind of Satan in a lot of episodes. I don't know if that was a satanic power or what, but that just kind of caught me off guard. I was like, how'd he do that?
I think there's no better way to end on that note. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to be right back with the conclusion of Sweet Home-Dum-Diddly Doodily.
And now it's time for our favorite part of the show. What's that say? Ads and sponsorship. Ugh, this is going to be a real nightmare. Okay, what do you got for me? Patreon.com. What the hell is that? And they just give us money for it? Oh, if only we had that around in the 70s. Make sure you ask your mommies and daddies to send money to Best Darn Diddly at patreon.com so they can drive a dump truck full of money up to our houses. Uh-oh, I said the loud part quiet and the quiet part loud.
Hi, I'm Drew.
I'm Nate.
And I'm Tanner, and we are the hosts of Headline Heroes.
Every week we take a bizarre, out there article,
Germans build underground pipeline for beer,
and attempt to create a superhero or villain.
The obvious one is that they have a giant robot that runs off of beer.
Along the way, we discuss powers, design a costume, and of course, struggle with a name.
Gram Sam? No.
Gram Sam, no!
And inevitably, we get off subject and talk about the really important stuff.
I did go to Bill Engvall's website, and I just want to tell you a couple of things I'm seeing here.
Please do, I wish you would. But we always arrive with the super creation we are proud of. Join Headline Heroes every Tuesday as we try to make reality a little more super.
Back for our last act, we open up with basically the conclusion of the family classes that Homer and Marge have been forced to take. It's actually Homer and Cletus are being tested in a scenario where Homer has Cletus on his knee, and Cletus says, Pa, I cut my finger on the screen door again.
Why, you cotton picking... No, I gotta pass this class for my kids. Son, let's stop the fussing and the feuding.
I love you, Pa.
I love you, Cletus.
And they see them embrace, and the class cheers. Hell, some of them even choose to shoot guns into the air.
That's my kind of celebration.
And that I love you, Cletus.
You brought me back to New Year's in the Hood.
That I love you, Cletus was actually the first time Cletus is named.
Fair
Outstanding. Dude, I love this class. I love that the standard to pass this class is that you only choke someone a little bit.
And catch yourself and realize that it's wrong. That's
important.
Exactly.
As long as you stop choking within a reasonable amount of time, you're cool.
And then you can continue choking the child in the future behind closed doors.
Well, and you can even acknowledge that you're just stopping because you have to pass the class.
That's allowed.
All of this is fine.
Turns out there was really only one test they actually had to pass. And Marge failed it.
Well, they thought so. All she needed was a little LSD. But for now, back at the Flanders home, it's game night, and they are going to play bombardment.
Yay!
Of Bible questions.
Yay!
Rod and Todd are still excited, not so much Lisa and Bart, but They have to decide which version. I love Todd and Rod suggest 2 different versions of the Bible, St. James and the Vulgate of St. Jerome. Ned looks through the shelves where they have many, many, many more Bibles and decides Vulgate it is.
Aww.
We see that they are basically getting stars for any time they get a question correct, and everybody is just plastered from head to toe in stars. Maggie even has one on her forehead. Everyone except for Bart and Lisa. They try to give them some softballs so that they can, get a star themselves. Ned's giving them clues. They're trying to get the answer to a question, and he's like, come on, it's in the book of Revelations. Fire-breathing lion's head, tail made out of snakes. Who else is it going to be?
Jesus?
Don't you kids know anything? The serpent of Rehoboam?
Hmm?
The well of Zohasadar?
Hmm?
The bridal feast of Beth Dreda Krebazeb?
Wait, that's the kind of thing you should start learning at baptism.
Actually, we, never got baptized.
Oh!
And Ned actually faints. Oh, Nettie! Nettie! And Ned starts to wake
She
up
gives
again.
him smelling salts.
But
And he starts
oh
waking
yeah,
up.
but even that, Ned declares, "Nope, that ain't gonna do it," and he faints again.
Double faint. I love it. I love everything about this scene. I love that technically the Vulgate of St. Jerome is in Latin, so Ned is translating on the fly. I would like us to all point out that's sexy. I'm sorry. From a classical scholarship point of view, that's kind of hot.
Especially with words like Artaxerxes.
Well,
yeah, Artaxerxes. That's really true. I don't know how you decline that noun particularly. That's a Latin joke.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll
it
go
was
with
really funny if you knew Latin. I promise.
That I believe that some select few might get a moderate chuckle.
Viewership who speaks Latin, please confirm to Miles via Twitter that was a good
In
joke.
Latin.
And I will give you 1 free bonus point on any of Andy's papers in his classes.
That seems fine to me as well.
So we then see, while this is happening, that Marge and Homer have actually passed. Well, like, as Andy mentioned, Marge actually fails the drug test. He tested positive for crack and PCP. But 15 minutes later, they do confirm that was a mistake.
Oh, my!
The only thing I'm high on is love. Love for my son and daughters. Yes, a little LSD is all I need.
All right, sounds very good.
The number of fucks that these two teachers give is like -16. It's like so beautiful and real. They're like, sure, that's fine. Wet paper sack, just go.
It's the exact opposite of the number of fucks that Ned gives about the fact that the Simpsons kids are not baptized, because he is losing his goddamn mind about it. He just can't believe that this is happening. He has Reverend Lovejoy on auto dial, so he, of course, calls him up to let them know what's happening. You can see that Reverend Lovejoy is super annoyed, as usual, with Ned. He's just trying to play with his train set, but he does reluctantly take the call. Hello, Ned?
Reverend, emergency. It's the Simpsons kids. Eataly, baptism. Oodly, doodly diddly.
Ned, have you thought about one of the other major religions? They're all pretty much the same.
Dude!
But he hangs up on him.
Well, and then also he blames Flanders for his train wrecking because he was distracted, I guess. So before the scene's over, he's like, "Oh, damn, Flanders!"
I think it's not that he was distracted. I think that was like instant karma coming back to.
He was angry. Yeah.
God was angry with
God's
him.
wrath.
Which will come back again.
Toy trains, man. That's all that's going on.
Why do you hate my train? So Ned declares that he's just going to have to baptize these kids himself. He breaks open his emergency baptism kit, as one does, and we
all
hear
have.
a air horn. Yeah, we hear an air horn play as he busts this out, and it plays Hallelujah from the chorus of Handel's Messiah. At least that's the sound it makes, but apparently, if you are listening with closed captions, it actually lists it out as a different song that played. Andy, do you recall watching it with the subtitles? Did it mention the name of the song that played, and did you happen to notice?
Did not notice.
Reason? Well, just a fun little weird note there that if, you're listening on the audio and you're watching closed captioning, it says, "'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free," is instead what it claims the song is.
Whoa.
Not
That's
quite the same.
insane.
Yeah.
Like, formerly deaf choir masters former choir masters who then became deaf might be really pissed off by that.
And are also listening to the show to find out.
Yeah. Because obviously y'all transcribe this, right?
Oh,
For the hearing impaired community.
I feel like that's going to be our next start, our next side project. Richie, that'll be your next responsibility for the show.
Yeah. Sounds like
I'll
something
get
for
on
Richie.
it. I'm just going to do the script, though. The script of what the Simpsons say.
So, and only if I send it to you?
Yes.
So, while Ned is rushing the kids off to the river for a baptism, Homer and Marge are coming home, and I love Homer actually screams, "Kids, we're good parents now. Get your asses out here." But they discover that there is a sign on the door that says "Gone Baptizing," and Homer is upset because he declares, "Oh no, in the eyes of God, they'll be Flanders." Really fun note from the commentary on this one. It has no real facts or anything, but Matt Groening literally lit up when he saw this "Gone Baptizing" sign because he legit forgot that this was the ending to this episode, and it's one of his favorite endings of all time. So he got very giddy suddenly in the middle of this, which it makes sense. It's a really fun ending. It has a lot happening in this showdown with the two neighbors of very different faiths.
Man, can you imagine though if some parent tried to baptize someone else's child? Woo! In this day and age.
Yeah, it's kind of crossing a line, I would say. I don't know. It depends on how seriously you take it. To me, I'd just be like, why did you give my kid a fancy bath? But, to others, it would probably upset them.
So, if you had a kid, it wouldn't bother you if, your parents had it baptized on the sly?
I'm sure it would.
Okay.
I was just trying to make a joke. It clearly wasn't that funny.
Well,
it is now.
We'll just cut all this shit. Never mind. Just keep the laughter. Or just, cut out everything between
just
that
us laughing.
We don't want to see what's behind the laughter.
Jammed it.
That'll be behind the paywall. If you donate on Patreon, you'll hear all this. Or if you don't, because I'm probably not going to cut it. But donate to us on Patreon, please. Patreon.com/bestdarndiddly. Yeah.
You can own a portion of Miles' soul.
And get a point on Andy's test.
Oh yeah, can I sell points on your test on Patreon? You cool with that?
Yeah, sure.
I think
Why
it's
not?
fine. I'm gonna take your silence as an okay. Is this an affirmative?
We're actually gonna have a best darn diddly sheet of people that are almost passing Andy's test. That's a lot of points.
You know what? That's fine. If they I'm going to say that, in fact, if you're interested in that, you can find us online at nsula.edu, enroll in our all-online English graduate program, at which point I would be happy to give you a free bonus point, provided that you are also a Patreon of Miles. Wait, I can't make you... Whatever.
You're going to get yourself, so fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep talking until someone actually does this and I get in trouble. And they're going to be like,
yeah, you can't do that. Hey, we'll just make it an under-the-table deal. You can just slide us some cash. We don't have to have Andy involved at all. It'll be fine. We'll make sure you get your points.
We know a guy.
Let's move on.
Points are not still in my classes. Okay, go.
We see Ned is kind of reflecting on everything that's going on as they are driving to the river. He says out loud to Maude, I didn't really think Homer and Marge were bad parents, but now I know those kids need to be in a less hell-bound family.
Just sit back and before you know it, you'll be part of the Flanders flock.
Ha ha, you're gonna be Lisa Flanders.
You're going to be Bart Flanders.
Ah!
Oh, relax, Bart. Your sister Maggie isn't scared.
That's because she can't talk. She pulls the pacifier out of her mouth in this moment, though.
Doodly doodly.
And then in the creepiest of fashions, we actually get a 180-degree head turn, where Maggie's head like turns around backwards, and it actually makes the exact same sound effect that was used in the movie The Exorcist when Reagan's head did the same thing.
Nice.
Perfection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Religion is creepy.
But, you know, like, flipping it around, can you imagine how, like, if you think about it from, like, Ned's perspective, he legit thinks, like, these parents next door are it's, the whole thing's fucking batshit crazy, but it's funny to think about. Anyway, moving on from that, we see Homer and Marge are in pursuit, and this I actually am going to say is my favorite joke in the entire episode.
Oh god, it is so good.
Absolutely.
He decides to find out where Flanders is going. He just has to think like Flanders. So we hear his thoughts. I'm a big four-eyed lame-o, and I wear the same stupid sweater every day. And the Springfield River!
The radical power of empathy, y'all.
That's definitely a fantastic bit.
Oh, it's so good. When Homer and Marge arrive, Ned is already in the river. He's got the kids dressed in white. He has the Flanders Family Bible, and today they're going to be writing a new page. He invites them to be the first to enter God's good graces. And actually, this is still while Homer and Marge are in pursuit, because you see Homer driving by Reverend Lovejoy's home, where a new train set is being delivered just in time for Homer's car to smash right through it. And Reverend Lovejoy looks up to the heavens and just says, "Why do you hate my trains?"
I got a real question here. What is the time lapse between the phone call that he made and that Flanders made to the Reverend and now?
The train did arrive pretty fast.
It seems like less than an hour. Am I wrong here?
Could have already ordered it, though.
Well, I mean, but he ordered the second one before his first one blew up.
Maybe he had one on standby. Maybe this happened.
What I'm saying is that the Reverend Lovejoy paid for rush delivery.
Very expedited delivery. Yeah.
How much more do you have to pay if you want a model train clock by 2:00 this afternoon? With
maybe it was a local shop though, that's somebody that actually didn't mind delivering for that extra charge.
I'm just saying,
that would be the only thing that makes sense to me as well on that, just because, I mean, this was pre-Amazon, people. There's no Prime delivery.
Maybe he swayed them with a free extra point on God's test if they delivered it to him.
Maybe he did.
That's what it was. You're right.
He can go to the good place.
So finally, Homer and Marge do arrive, and they're just in time to see this baptism about to occur. I mean, Ned is reading from the Bible. He's got a cup of water that's now been blessed by him, I guess, poured over Bart's head. And we see Homer sprinting towards his son. He actually takes a nasty tumble down the hill in pursuit.
As he often does.
But he reaches him just in time to dive, and he actually takes the holy water instead of his son, and he reacts as if it burns. Yeah, it's a beautiful shot. No.
Hissing sound. I saw that. I saw that in the closed captions. It said hissing sound.
And then you get another great bit where Bart's like, "Wow, Dad, you took baptismal water for me. How do you feel?"
"Oh, Bartholomew, I feel like St. Augustine of Hippo after his conversion by Ambrose of Milan."
Wait, Homer, what did you just say?
"I said, shut your ugly face, Flanders."
Oh, fair enough.
So good.
So we get this beautiful ending here where Homer saves his son just in time, and the whole family is reunited except for one. Actually two, I guess, because Maggie is on the shoreline and Marge is still coming from the car, but Maggie is looking at the Flanders family, and it's just this picturesque, beautiful portrait of a moment with the whole family with sunshine behind them, looking peaceful and pleasant. And then looking out into the river where Homer is now completely soaked in water and the kids are all kind of looking gloomy. The forest behind them is like been burned. It looks like a dark scene. And it seems like Maggie might choose to go with the Flanders instead until you see that tall tuft of blue hair come over the hillside. And immediately, without hesitation, Maggie turns and goes as quickly as she can right towards her mom. And they embrace, the kids and Homer come over, and it's actually just this insanely sweet moment that comes together at the end of the episode that shows, once again, that while the Simpsons might not be a perfect family, they do love each other, and there is a baseline in that ties them together.
And they bring it full on back around because she says, "Oh, Maggie, you're a Simpson again," and then Maggie takes out her pacifier and burps.
Yeah, totally. Instead of the daddly doodly, it's just a nice belch.
Yep.
One last little joke over the credits. Homer's trying to get the dirt from the Flanders, and Lisa's like, there's really not much dirt. But Bart does say they have a bunch of old paint cans in the garage.
Old painty can Ned.
And as the credits roll to black, you can still hear Homer saying things like, I always knew he'd keep his old cans of paint, and everybody's just laughing as credits fade.
The theory of small differences.
One thing real quick before we end this one, and we'll get our final thoughts, but I do want to say that there was a big debate in the writer's room about how much they should villainize Christianity in this episode, because they are really trying to have keep it funny, keep it jovial, make it humorous, and not take it too far where, they poke buttons too hard, I guess is the idea. They feel like they did a really good job. They did get some people who, of course, thought that their message was not great, that the Simpsons were so anti-baptism, but they tried to keep the focus on the Simpsons were pro-Simpsons family, and it wasn't really so much the baptism as much as the baptism by Flanders. And just in general, like Andy said, it'd be weird to have somebody else baptize your kids, regardless of your thoughts on baptism.
Yeah, but what I enjoy about it, though, is they go through the thing of Homer saving Bart from being saved. And I like how they just flip the normal thing on its head. And, of course, we have a sense of humor, so we can say they definitely didn't go anywhere near as far as they could have gone in this instance. And that's just people being uppity to be uppity, I feel like, because it plays very well when you see it. So I just enjoy them turning the whole idea around what typically happens in those situations.
All right, well, that does bring us to the end of Home Sweet Home-Dum-Diddly Doodily. Andy, was there anything else that you wanted to say about this episode?
I just think that this is one of the first episodes that really sort of speaks to this brimming concept within The Simpsons of dysfunctional functionality. Do you know what I mean? There's this whole trend where obviously they are not a perfect family, yet it is in fact in the celebration, the fierce celebration of those imperfections, that they find their own identity. And it's kind of really sweet, in a weird kind of a backwards way, right? It's kind of like small hope. They're always going to be the Simpsons. They're always going to be these flawed, messy, ugly, complicated people. And yet, that is in fact their strength in a lot of ways. It's not a weakness they overcome, but literally the thing that keeps them going.
I really like that. That's perfectly ties up what the Simpsons are.
Yeah, very profound there, sir. Very well.
I knew there's a reason we invited him.
Yeah, and thank you again so much for joining us. Yeah, exactly. We really appreciate each and every time you come on the show, man. It's always a pleasure talking to you. We have great conversations, dive into some weird, deep rabbit holes, but that's part of the fun. So thank you again for joining us. One more time, tell everybody all about the great places that they can buy your book and where they can find you online and all that good stuff.
For sure. So my novel is called Down and Out. And you can look for that and maybe add my last name, Briseno, wherever you look for books, including Walmart.com and Amazon and Goldwick.com, which is my personal favorite. And They're the folks who published it, and I love them. And I get more money if you buy it from them than if you buy it from Amazon. Just straight up.
Definitely do that then.
Shout outs to that, right? You can find me on Twitter at @JAndrewBriseño, and that's also my website, jandrewbriseño.com, which has even more information about me and a hideous picture. And
don't you have control of that?
But yeah, but I mean, you know,
it's just hard to find a picture that is
right?
of you.
So,
yeah, that isn't hideous.
Yeah, like, I mean, I thought about putting up a picture of some other motherfucker, like some photogenic asshole, and you know, with like a cleft chin and shit, and be like, wow. But I don't know.
He's so pretty. How could he not be good at writing?
That's how it works.
Yeah. Very cool, man. Thanks again. Richie, anything else that you want to add about this episode or anything from that book of yours?
My book, The Simpsons, A Complete Guide to Our Favorite Family, did point out 2 things we did not touch base on. We saw the state seal of whatever state Springfield is in, and it doesn't say where we saw it, but we last saw it in Mr. Lisa Goes to Washington, so I thought it was weird that it pointed that out, but didn't say where you saw it in this episode.
Oh,
it would have had to have been in the courthouse.
That's what I would think.
No, it's in the scene where they call child welfare.
It was on the side of the welfare truck.
No, it slings onto the screen like the bat signal in the old Batman thing. And it has the symbol right there.
Well, also speaking of the child welfare system, the ambulance actually drives over a child's tricycle on the way to the Simpsons house. So child welfare, my ass. But that's
awesome.
Clever little joke in there. But other than that, I said it at the top of the show. I really thought this is a powerfully good episode. Like this was, I remember enjoying the episode all the time, but I just didn't remember how great it actually was, especially with the moments where you feel really, really bad for the family. Like I know I felt that way when I was younger, but as we talk about numerous times, the older you get, like the scene where Bart and Lisa are even upset, and then Homer and Marge are upset, and they leave the newspaper article under the door. Like it's almost a heartbreaking scene there. You feel so terrible, but it just adds to the overall greatness of this episode.
Well, and like you said, I think as a kid, we can appreciate and understand from the kid perspective, but even as an adult without parents, I know enough, adults that are parents, that I think you can kind of see it from a different light as an adult, and some of those moments, the heart moments, do hit a little bit harder. So to go out on a lighter note, something that I don't think has ever happened in the history of television at this point, they talked about on the commentary that after this episode aired, they actually got, Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein actually got a letter from Peter Roth, who is the president of 20th Century Fox at the time, and it was just to compliment them on how good of a job he thought they had done with the episode, and how he really enjoyed the direction that they were taking over the show in the new season.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, something that you don't hear, Holt. Usually when you get messages from the network, it's something like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Or, you need to advertise for this product while doing this.
Butterfingers.
Yeah, exactly. So that is going to do it for this week's Best Darn Diddly Review Show. Make sure you go and follow J. Andrew Briseño at J. Andrew Briseño. Make sure you buy his book, Down and Out. Do it from Goldwake Press so that he makes more ducats and you get the same product regardless.
You can buy a monocle.
And yeah, buy 2 monocles if you'd like. Whatever your preference is. Make sure you follow Richie at theWiz_Kid23. I'm at MrMostDaysOff. You can, of course, follow our show at Best Darn Diddly. Where did we come up with that name again? I don't remember. But that's Diddly. That's on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Just search for that. You'll find it. www.bestdarndiddly.com. The WizKid and I once again just want to thank you so much for joining us on our journey through the golden age of The Simpsons and beyond. We are going to be back again next week with another great episode, one that actually very near and dear to my heart. And that reminds me, buy my soul on Patreon right now. It's only $5. We're going to be reviewing Bart Sells' Soul.
Oh, that's such a great episode.
Make sure you come back for a lot more of that LSD. That's love for The Simpsons and Diddlies.
I love that. And until next time, be cromulent to each other.
Hey, this is the Toph, host of the Gravity Beard Podcast, a variety show with interviews and discussions on a wide range of topics. Our guests have included a viral YouTube star, a former child actor. We've even had a guy on who may have solved the D.B. Cooper case. It's a delicious box of audio chocolate. You never know what you'll get. Find it on Podbean, iTunes, and other places you listen to podcasts. It's the Gravity Beard Podcast. It's what your ears will want to be listening to.